We really have to start talking about money more as women in groups and start to not have it be looked at as such an emotionally charged thing and looked at more as a tool to use it for the life that we really want. We have these beliefs from the past that we didn't create, but if we let that keep going, then we are actually modeling that for future generations. I remember the mortgage guy asking me to get my dad to co-sign, and I stood my ground. I said, no, I will not.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Old Chicks No Shit podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Arthurton. Today, we're going to be talking about two of my favorite topics, and that is women supporting women and empowering women around money. My guest today is Marcia Dawood, who is the author of the book called Do Good While Doing Well. She is also the host of the Angel Investor podcast. She is actually an angel investor herself and chair of the Angel Capital Association. She is on a mission to make angel investing accessible to everybody, and specifically for women to be able to support women-owned businesses. She herself has invested in nearly 50 early-stage companies, many of which are either owned by women or directed to women. But her mission is really to empower us all to be able to support each other in ways that matter to us. So if you ever thought about investing, if you've ever thought investing was out of reach, if you've ever thought about ways that you could support other women-owned businesses, then this is the episode for you. I hope you enjoy it. Let's dive in. So Marcia, welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to dive into this conversation with you because women and money is a topic that is so near and dear to my heart. And the second topic that's near and dear to my heart is women supporting women. And I feel like your story covers so much of that. So before we dive into your story, because I definitely want to get to your story, but I really want to talk about women and money, and specifically why, in terms of like our power, our purpose, like really, and like money, really claiming ownership of those things, because it's the number one thing that I see holding women back from what it is that they want to create in this world, right? So what's your perspective on why it is that we don't step up to claim those things for ourselves?
Wow. So that's a great question to start with. And thanks for having me on the show. I do love the title of the podcast so much. So one of the things we really have to think about when it comes to women and money is let's go all the way back into history, right? How about dowries? How about like all of these things that kind of shaped a mindset that wasn't necessarily anything that we wanted or created on our own or really had a vote on. And if you think back to all of the things that have happened really over the last century, even 2 centuries, it was up until 1974 that women could actually have a credit card in their own name. I remember my very first mortgage that I got as a single woman, very, very small little condominium, but I was like, oh, it's home ownership. That's really what I want to do. And I remember the mortgage guy asking me to get my dad to co-sign. And I stood my ground. I said, no, I will not. And they went back and forth with me, but, eventually. So think about like those types of things. I mean, this is not that long ago. It's not even a whole generation ago that we were having, all of these, various things that were happening. And finally, we're starting to see a little bit of change. We're seeing that there is more that women are able to do. But we can't just change our mindset on a dime. So all of these things are kind of ingrained in us. How do we change that? We really have to start talking about money more as women in groups and start to not have it be looked at as such an emotionally charged thing and looked at more as a tool to use it for the life that we really want.
Yeah, and it's so interesting what you said, because that whole thing about, money equals power in our culture. Let's get that right. You know what I mean? Let's level set on that. But this whole idea that, like, when I think about midlife women, I see them as a powerful financial cohort, right? Like collectively, what is it? We make like 95% of all the buying decisions. We're coming into more wealth than we've ever seen. right? Like we have more disposable income than we've ever had in the history of time, and yet we're still climbing the hill of some of the things that you just mentioned, like the conditioning that runs so deep with us. And the only thing holding us back from the powerful cohort we are is the belief that we are a powerful cohort. Right?
That's so true.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So, I
And
mean,
what
sorry, go ahead.
I was to say what I worry about is, yes, we have these mindsets, and yes, we have these beliefs from the past that we didn't create. But if we let that keep going, then we are actually modeling that for future generations. So not only do we really need to change it for ourselves, but we absolutely have to change it for future generations because they're just
Yeah.
watching what we're doing. And now there are more opportunities for women out there, and we need to make sure that we're taking advantage of that.
Yeah, that is so true because I say this all the time is that, we are on the leading edge. Like our generation of women are on the leading edge because the women of previous generations, like our mothers and grandmothers, were not in the same position financially or otherwise, career wise or anything than we are now. So we literally are the leading edge of the change. And what we do
Yes,
matters so much. Like what we demonstrate to our daughters and our granddaughters will have a significant impact. And when I think about the change that needs to happen in the mindset and really claiming our power, claiming our purpose, it literally happens one woman at a time, right? Who leads
that's
the
right.
way and demonstrates it for another woman, who sees possibility and can demonstrate it for another woman, which is why I love the work that you do so much with angel investing and supporting women owned businesses, because that's really the only way. We need to be able to see those successes. We need to have it modeled for us,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about what got you into becoming an angel investor. You had a corporate gig prior to that. What was
Right.
kind of the big eye opener for you that was like, I really got to participate in this. I got to go here.
Yeah. So one day I was invited to an angel investing meeting, and I remember thinking to myself, cool. What is that exactly? Like, I have no idea what angel investing is. Are we going to look at picking stocks together? I absolutely had no idea. And so I went to the first meeting and I was totally fascinated because I started to meet entrepreneurs, and they were entrepreneurs that were local. I was living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at the time, and I thought, wow, I had no idea that entrepreneurship was happening all around me. I was learning about things that had to do with either healthcare or something, helping the environment. And I thought to myself, where have I been? Like, I
Mhm.
feel like I've been living under a rock, but I'd basically just been living in corporate America, kind of doing my own thing in a little bubble. And I didn't realize all of these other things that were going on around me. And it turns out that there's innovation happening in every city and in every town. And so an angel investor is simply somebody who is willing to help an early stage company, especially an early stage company with some level of scalability, meaning that we think that it's going to, take off and kind of go somewhere.
Mhm.
And you that could, in a lot of cases, be with money, but it can also be with time and helping them to grow the company and to build it because it is very hard work. And so I love seeing all of the things that are happening all over the country and really all over the world. So it doesn't just happen in California and New York, it really does happen all over.
Right. So I've heard a stat that says something like, 2 or 3% of all venture capital money goes to women owned
That's right.
businesses. Why is that?
So, yeah, let me kind of dissect that a little bit.
Yeah.
So, first of all, angel investors are people that write checks out of their own checkbook. A venture capitalist, in simplest terms, is somebody who uses other money in order to invest. They usually raise a fund or a series of
Okay. Mhm.
funds, and they're investing other people's money. So, that's like the biggest difference between an angel and a venture capitalist. And so, it's very challenging. And this 2% number it's kind of hard to navigate because, yes, in the venture capital world, it probably is closer to 2 or 3% that women get. People of color get even worse. People with disabilities, founders with disabilities they aren't even on the radar.
Right.
So it's a very small amount of money. In angel world, we have seen over the last 5 to 10 years. I sat on the board of the Angel Capital Association for quite a while and shared the board at one point. And so the data that we were finding is that it is starting to get a little bit better in angel world. So maybe 25 to 30% is going to female founders. And I think the reason why we're starting to see that number climb is because we are starting to see more women investors. So my opinion is that if you want to see change and you want to see women and people of color be backed, then we have to see those same people who look like them actually writing the checks and being the funders. And up until, let's say, 10 or so years ago, that wasn't really the easiest thing in the world to do. You did have to have quite a bit of money. You did have to get invited to the party. But nowadays, with all of the changes that have been happening between what was part of the Jobs Act, which in 2016 ended up letting the SEC change rules so that now people could invest through equity crowdfunding for as little as, like, let's say $100. And all of the things that are happening within angel groups to make it more accessible so that you don't have to be writing these thousands and tens of thousands of dollars worth of checks in order to invest in a for-profit company. So I think the accessibility is definitely starting to be there, but it's a little bit about, like what we just talked about with the mindset. People still have this perception. Even when they watch TV today, they're seeing people who are, investing in startup companies who fly private planes and, who have lots and lots and lots of money. So the perception is that you have to have these things in order to be an investor. And that's just simply not true. But we're really not talking about it enough, which is one of the reasons why I'm so vocal and making sure that, I have a podcast called The Angel Next Door, trying to just demystify this. I literally just want people to realize that it's not so overwhelming, it's not so intimidating, and it's actually fun to be able to meet other people and learn about the companies and the things they're working on.
So you go to this meeting, and what is the big aha you leave with that's like, oh my God, I got to do something?
Yeah. So in that meeting, I'm pretty sure we saw 3 different companies give what we call a pitch, which is basically like essentially telling us what they're working on, why it's important, and how much money they need in order to grow the company and how much money they're looking for at that particular time. This was all so foreign and so new to me. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know these terms. I don't have a finance degree. Like, is this really something that I can do? But I was surrounded by people who knew about it, and they were so welcoming, and it was really quite a lovely experience. And I got to meet people that I would never have met otherwise.
Mhm.
I mean, if you think about your network is usually, the people you work with, maybe your neighbors, something like that. I mean, I was meeting people who were working in industries I would have never crossed paths with, even though we lived in the same city. But it was just so interesting because now we're not just talking about the weather or, your kid's school or whatever the story is. We were talking very specifically about a company, whether or not we like the company. Do we want to invest in the company? Do we like what they're doing? Do we think it's a big problem? Is it something that's, their solution is really solving? And those types of conversations build deep relationships. So I feel like in a lot of cases, people don't realize there's a lot more to investing and helping these startup companies than just, hey, I'm going to invest some money and maybe I'll do well and maybe I won't. Which is kind of why I have this whole theme about, like, do good while doing well.
Yeah. Yeah, I really want to unpack that because, this is one of the things as well that I hear often is that women want to make impact, right? Like when
Yes.
people are considering, a career change or whatever, or investing or use of their money, they want to have impact. And creating a scenario where a woman who is not a multi-billionaire or, who just wants to be able to support something that she truly believes in is so important, and creating the right avenues for that, because maybe not everybody wants to start their own business, but maybe they just want to be able to support another woman who is doing it that is towards a cause or a product that they really, really believe in.
Absolutely. And so a good example with what I went through is, unfortunately my mother passed from ALS in 2018. There are very few treatments, very few cures even being worked on related to a disease like this because it does affect, while it affects probably about 30,000 Americans at any given time, that's a very, very small number compared to like cancer and heart disease and things like that.
Right.
So it just doesn't get the level of, attention that it really should. in my opinion, of course. So when I see an entrepreneur that's working on something that's very specific to this, all of a sudden my interest level goes
Agreed.
up. Like I know that that's something that I want to be a part of. I want to help work on. So it's a good example of like, it could be anything that you care about. It could be something about the climate, about healthcare, about the way your children's school is run. I mean, all different types of things that can help at, for parents, for students, all kinds of stuff is really being worked on. So it's a matter of like, what do you care about? And then how would you want to be of help to those companies?
Yeah, and the idea that you can be of help to those companies with as little as $100, like that for me was, as I've been stalking your work and, doing research, right? Like I, again, had this notion of people sitting around with billions of dollars and thinking, what can I do with it? But the idea that, me as a middle class woman who is concerned about having an impact can do that with as little as $100 or $200 or $1,000, right? Like
Right.
that just opened my eyes in a huge, huge way.
Yeah, so let's unpack that for a minute. So people have probably heard about Kickstarter or Indiegogo. That's like a
Mhm.
crowdfunding that
Yeah,
you'd use rewards. Like you can buy something early or you can do this or get a t-shirt or whatever it is. So equity crowdfunding means that you can actually invest, like you say, 100, 200, $1,000, and you can actually get a small, it's very small, but a small piece of ownership into
right.
the company.
Mhm.
And so that only started in 2016, which I get it. We're on like, almost 10 years now, but still it was really a very that was a very short time ago in the grand scheme of things. So people knowing about it, understanding it, and feeling comfortable with it, that takes time. And so, what I love about the fact that these things exist, these platforms that where you can actually go and look at companies that are raising through equity crowdfunding, is that you don't have to invest money right away. You can literally go peruse. It's very clear. The SEC has made it very clear on these sites exactly what kind of disclosures people have to make, the types of information that has to be on there for the different companies that are fundraising. So I always think it's a really cool exercise, and it's a great thing to do with a family, is to go through and just start looking at the companies that are fundraising. Talk about them. Look at all the information that there's tons and tons of information about these different companies. And it's a great thing. I love talking to like teenagers or even younger kids because they'll start to tell you what they like, what they don't like, and then as a family, you can start to even think about, hey, would we want to invest in something like this?
Mhm.
And the barrier to entry is much lower. And I always tell people, like, think of it like a mock portfolio. Start out by using like Monopoly money, like before you actually make an investment. And then, you'll start to learn along the way before you ever put any money up.
So are you familiar with Kiva.org?
I am,
Yeah.
yes.
So
Hmm.
I started doing that like probably almost 10 years ago now, maybe not quite that long, but
Hmm.
this idea that I could invest in a woman run business in an underprivileged country, right? And I've been
Yeah.
doing that, funding businesses to the tune of $50, and I think I have a portfolio of like 6 of them now or whatever. But is that the similar
Amazing.
type thing that you're talking about, where you can peruse the site, go have a look and be like, I really like the fact that, and to me, I do it because, you hear this stat all the time, is that when a woman succeeds, it's not just her success, it has a ripple effect into her immediate family, into her village, into her
Yeah.
community, all of that. And so that really, like, I feel like it's not just investing in a business, it's actually investing in the success of a community.
100%. And I love that. And you said that so perfectly because um, we don't really realize how much of an impact our money can make. And where you shop, what restaurants you go to, the dry cleaner you use, you can actually, there are websites that will allow you to look at, hey, which businesses are women owned, which businesses are, and then you can start to really use your dollars to kind of
Yeah.
vote for what you care
Yeah.
about. And I just think that that's like a perfect way to be helpful to small businesses. Because think about it, there are so many more small businesses in our country than there are big companies that we hear about in the news.
Yeah. And, it's easy to think, oh, my $10, my $100 doesn't really do much. But again, it's collectively women
Yeah.
supporting women to succeed is how we raise the tide, right? Like how we help
That's
all
right.
women succeed is one woman at a time, $1 at a time, right? $100 at a time.
And you'd be surprised in these equity crowdfunding sites, or even if it's a debt crowdfunding or something like that, you'd be surprised how fast it can add up. I'm one of the local entrepreneurs here in Charlotte is fundraising on a crowdfunding site now, and I mean she's already up to $60,000 that she raised. So I mean it's substantial amounts of money that can really affect a small business, and it means hiring, creating jobs, all the good
Right.
things.
Right. So, okay, so you go to this meeting, you get inspired. Like what is the first step you take to be like, okay, I'm going to move out of corporate world and this is what I'm going to do? Like, how did you navigate that shift? Because obviously you were moved by what you saw. And there are so many of us who go through this, like, you know, that changed me. Now, what do I do about it? So how did you make that shift?
Yeah, well, I mean, it didn't happen overnight, that's for
Right.
sure. I started just getting more involved. I learned a lot more. I did end up, because of my husband's job, living in 5 different cities over a 10-year period. So, started learning about angel investing in Pittsburgh, which I didn't really think was a hotbed for
Right.
entrepreneurs, but it turns out it is quite the hotbed. But then moved to New York, which is, a little bit bigger, and then moved to Dallas, then to San Francisco. So I did actually live in the Silicon Valley area for a little while, and then to Charlotte. So, these are all very different ecosystems,
Mhm.
but very interesting way to learn. And then I guess what started to happen was I ran out of my own money to invest because, as I tell people in my book and on my podcast, and I have a ton of disclaimers saying, hey, be really careful. It is a riskier asset class. And the biggest risk is that it is illiquid, meaning once you make the investment, you got to wait until there's some type of a sale or IPO or something like that in order to get your money back. So you really have to be careful as far as how much money you use. So I always tell people don't really put more than 5 to 7% of your investable assets into an asset class like this. So I, over a relatively short period of time, learned that I was really falling in love with every entrepreneur I was meeting, because that's what we do as angels. And then I was like, "Ooh, I don't really have any more money that I can personally invest." But because I lived in all these different places, I also thought, well, I've seen a lot of things that other people haven't seen. And maybe I should start telling people about like the mistakes that I made, so that I would love to see there be more people getting on the playing field. And before, it was a pretty high barrier to entry. I mean, you really did have to put up, quite a bit of money, but like we talked about, nowadays you don't have to do that. And how could I make it seem more accessible, more friendly and inviting? And also let people know, like, hey, this is something that you can do, not just, of course, as a hobby, but like it's a great family activity. It's something that you can talk about. It's a great dinner conversation. I mean, all of the things. So I think that's kind of what made that shift for me. And like, I just can't help myself. I'm kind of a natural born leader. So when I went on the board of the Angel Capital Association, was on the board for a couple years and then ended up chairing. And now I'm also an advisor on advisory committee to the SEC for small business capital formation. And now I chair that committee. So, I think it was something like I saw the need to serve. And then that's kind of what ended up happening.
Cool. Cool. That's I love what drives people to do things, what I mean, and especially women who step into leadership roles like you do, like you did, to support other women, because like we need so much more of women just like owning all that they are, right? Like being able to take their own experience and turn it into something. Because like, it's and I say this a lot, it's like for women, our natural default setting is self doubt,
Mm,
right?
it's true.
So whether we want to
Hmm.
start a business or whether it's, invest in one or whatever it is, it's like the questions come up. Am I enough? Am I smart enough? Do I have enough? Am I this enough? Am I that enough? Right? Which,
Right.
that's enough to stop us, tracks from doing just about anything. And so
Right.
women feeling empowered, first of all, to step into their own purpose, but then empowered enough to be able to support other women doing the same thing. That's where I get the goosebumps. That's why I do what I do with this podcast. So kudos to you for like really like really stepping into this in a big way that will have a significant impact, I think, in the years to come.
Yeah, I think my goal really is that somebody down the road learns something from me, invests in a company that really makes a difference, and I never know about it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right. It's having that big of an impact.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your first book, Do Good While Doing Well. Like what prompted you to write that?
Yeah, so like I said, I was really trying to showcase like all the mistakes that I made. Hey, don't do this. Maybe this is a better way. If I had known what I know now when I got started, this is what I would have
Right.
wanted to know. And that's kind of how the book got started. I ended up starting a podcast in 2021 called The Angel Next Door to pretty much just demystify why does anybody become an angel investor? I saw lots of podcasts that were about entrepreneurship or how do you raise money or all those things. How do you build a company? But I didn't see people talking about why would you ever become an investor? Why would you help them? Right? Especially at the earliest of stages, not the venture capital people so
Right.
much. But and so I thought, well, let's see if we can't demystify that. And then in 2022, I ended up speaking at TEDx Charlotte here in my local area. And people said, hey, we're really interested in what you're talking about, but you basically told it to us like in 11 minutes and we still need more. So then I was like, okay, well, I'm more of a spreadsheet person and I didn't really think of myself as a writer. And then I get yelled up by my writer friends. They're like, you're a writer. And so I ended up writing a book called Do Good While Doing Well, Invest for Change, Reap Financial Rewards, and Increase Your Happiness, which is essentially a demystifying of why would anybody ever do this. So if you notice there, the words angel investing is nowhere in the title because there's lots of books. If you wanted to go get a book on how to be an angel investor, you could do it. But there's a lot of people that it would never even cross their mind to be an angel investor. So but it would cross their mind to want to do good. And the concept of like actually doing good and potentially making a financial return is something that's like, whoa, we don't even talk about that. If you do good, that means you're like probably donating to charity. And if you do well, then you're probably investing in like oil or something, something that people are like, or could be a little bit, controversial. So I'm kind of saying, hey, there's a world in the middle. And why don't we explore that a little bit?
Yeah, because as you're talking, I'm thinking it's easy for women to give money charitably, right? Because like we've been taught that that's like the nice girl thing to do, right? Like that's the, and it's easy
100%.
for women to spend money. But
Yep.
the barrier to investing, I think, is where the line is drawn. Am I correct in that assumption?
100%. Yes, we're taught to earn, save, spend, give to charity, but nobody talks to women about investing. And so I think that's where we have a huge disconnect. And a lot of it is, like we talked about, or,
Yeah.
there are things from the past and limiting beliefs that we're living with today that are, they're part of our history, but they don't have to be part of our future.
Right.
But in order to change that, we really do have to start talking about it more, inviting women to the table more, and actually making them believe that they are good with money because all of the statistics that I found anyway when I was writing my second book has shown that women are very good with money. They're the ones who are scrappier. They can analyze things better. They have much better decision making than they think they do. And how do we get them to really believe that so that then they will go to that extra step? Because what I worry about is that women who have some type of savings, let's say,
Mhm.
that they're keeping it in vehicles like a checking
Yeah.
account or under their mattress, and they're not using it to actually create more wealth. So the guys out there are not just investing in things that are a little bit higher risk, like I'm talking about, but they're investing in mutual funds and they're investing in the stock market and
Mhm.
they have retirement accounts. And in some cases, women are getting better about that, but I don't think it's to the level it needs to be. So I would love
Yeah.
to see us get to that level where women believe that they are good with money, because they really are.
It's so interesting that you mentioned this, because I'm on my own personal journey in that space, where it was just like, save the money, you keep it in this very like low risk, place. And I used to tell myself all the time that, because I have a marketing degree, that was my whole career. I'd be like, oh, I'm arts and crafts. I'm not money, right? Like, I'm not numbers. And I used to, like, it's a thing that I would just repeat, like, jokingly. But then one day I was like, why am I saying that all the time? But it also, when I started down this road of like, okay, I'm going to start actively investing, in things, it's very scary. I felt like so far out of my depth. And it's been a very slow journey of like learning, like little bit by little bit. But once you get into it, you start to realize it's like, oh, it's not like rocket science. It's not that I'm not smart enough, because that's the place I initially went as well. You know what? I don't have a finance degree. I'm not smart enough, right? It's not rocket science. It's just that most of us have never been taught this stuff.
That's right. That's exactly right. I mean, we have not been taught, and we weren't taught in the same way. Even family dynamics, boys were told to have boy jobs, girls were told to have girl jobs. It just wasn't talked about, even family generation to generation, as it's passed down. So if we can really start to get women to believe like, hey, we are good with money, and imagine if the money could work for us. And I try to talk about it in buckets, like, I'm not saying take all your savings right now and go bet it on, black, or go bet it on a stock, or put it in, something that's, risky. Like, have a solid financial plan. A lot of people work with a financial advisor, but now you don't necessarily even need to have a person. There's all kinds of things online that you can use. There's lots of things through investing platforms that can help you. But I always tell people, like, figure out like what your comfort level is, and then in those buckets realize like what you can do. Because imagine if your money could actually work for you while you're sleeping, and you could actually grow your wealth when you don't have to just grind and grind and grind in order to try to get that.
Yeah. And the concept of, doing good while doing well, like that really appeals to me, right? Like that I could be, supporting something that is meaningful to me, and also, making money while I'm doing that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's like a foreign concept, actually, I think for a lot of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I want to talk about is, I think you are like co-producer of is it a documentary called Show Her the Money? Tell us a little
Yes.
bit
So
about
I'm an associate producer on a documentary called Show Her the Money, and it's all about trying to bring awareness to the fact that women do get so little, so much of the, so little of the funding that's out
that.
there for female founders.
Yeah. Yeah. Where is that available? Where can people watch it? I'd like to actually watch that myself.
So in 2024, there was basically a grassroots effort where we went city to city. There were over 100 cities where the documentary was screened. And then in 2025, we've been doing some of those similar things, but we've also been screening within organizations, within different corporations. So in 2026 is when it will go onto a streaming platform.
Oh, cool.
More details to be announced at a later date. But really, what we were concerned about, and the feedback that we got from some of our consultants was, if you put something up on a streaming platform, it can kind of have its 15 minutes of fame, and then we don't really know what would happen to it. And so we wanted to create a buzz where not only did we have the film screened live, but after every screening in 2024, and a lot of it in 2025 as well, we had a panel where we would have conversations with the local community. And in a lot of cases, we had local entrepreneurs on the panel to talk about this topic of like, hey, there are things happening again in every city and every town, and we screened it all over the world, and the response was just tremendous. I mean, women loved it. They wanted to talk more about it. They want to have viewing parties. That is what we need in order to actually make change. Media and television can make a tremendous amount of change. But it does require some real thought and strategic planning on how to do it.
Yeah. And again, I mean, the power that we have as a collective, right? Like to grow it from a grassroots, woman by woman, organization by organization, right? Where women are leading the charge. Like that's the way that it happens, right?
Yes.
Like that's the important way
100%.
that it happens, right? And even just us individually, stepping into our own power as far as our own situation. So whether you have money to invest or whether you're investing time or whatever it is, like you said, because that's the other thing I didn't know about, that there was an option for you to be able to invest time or expertise, because again, women in our age category have years of experience, years of expertise that could be really valuable to, another woman-owned
100%.
business.
Yes. And it's not just what people would normally think of. So I think if you said that to an average person, they may say, oh, well, you're talking about like if I'm a lawyer or if I'm an accountant,
Yeah.
like I could help with that. No, I'm talking about you worked in HR, you were in sales, you have marketing experience, you were doing bookkeeping, you're really good at organizing. The list goes on and on. I mean, entrepreneurs need help in every aspect of building a
Remember
company.
that.
And so, and therapy, not that you don't have to obviously be a licensed therapist, but sometimes I feel like I'm a therapist because, you're trying to help coach these entrepreneurs through hard times. But yeah, there are so many things that entrepreneurs need and so much that women can add to the mix.
Yeah. Yeah. So that in itself, right? Like that we can give individually, like one by one, bit by bit of what it is that we have. Maybe it's time, maybe it's money, maybe it's a specific expertise. But like every time we do that, we are not only empowering ourselves, right? We are
Yeah.
empowering other women who are like in the trenches.
Yeah. And another thing that we didn't talk about too is like your network. So you might not realize like how powerful your network can be, but I'll give a quick example. There was a company that was having a lot of trouble with algorithms, and they were getting kicked out of like different ads that they needed and all this other that they were trying to do for their company. And it turned out that there was somebody that knew somebody in their network and was able to get them to the right person within Meta to be able to fix the algorithm problem that they were having, which meant that their ads wouldn't be kicked off of the platforms. So, like, things like that are you think that you don't know people or you think your network isn't big enough or that's not true. Okay, there's
Yeah.
like literally we are so connected, and if we can help each other that way too. And I know so many women I've talked to who said, of course I would introduce you to so and so, or whatever the situation is. So think about like it's way more than just, oh, I'm going to give money or I'm going to give like I have to now work for them for a while. No, there's like so many ways that you can help. And even just being a customer is also help. Amplifying them on social media, also a huge help. I mean, there's so many things that people can do to really help.
Yeah, I mean, and I see this, in a microcosm in the Maven Collective group that I run, which is, women reinventing themselves, starting new careers, new lives, or whatever. And the number of connections that have happened where a woman was able to either provide a piece of knowledge, to make a contact, or even, got another woman in the group a client. Like watching that
Yes.
stuff happen, like that's where I'm like, I get serious goosebumps, because like that right there is the power of a collective. And we've been taught growing up that women are a competition for each other,
Yeah.
which is really quite sad. Luckily when
Mhm.
we get older, we start to realize what a pile of BS that is, because we are
Right.
so much more powerful together. But this is how change, this is how we leave a legacy, this is how we shift the
Yes.
dynamic for all of those generations that are coming behind us.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so good. Oh god, I love talking about this stuff. Do it all day, because women and money is such a fascinating topic to me, because, well, first of all, like you said it, we don't talk about it enough. We are conditioned to feel like we're disempowered around it. That it's
Yep.
something that we leave for our male partners. Like the number of women that I've talked to who are like, oh yes, my husband takes care of all of that. Like,
Yes. Oh, I hear that all the time. Yep.
yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, I love talking about that. So Okay, so somebody's listening to this episode and they're thinking like, okay, I got to do something here. Like, I want to, like, where do they start? Like, how do we empower women to feel like this is accessible to them?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, I've put out quite a few resources
Mhm.
myself, and then they can go to my website. I have lots
Okay,
of
we'll
free
share that in the
resources
show
there
notes.
too.
Yeah.
But honestly, like I tell people, you would be surprised what's happening in your own local area.
Mhm.
And the way to find out what's happening in your own local area is literally just do an online search. You could simply put entrepreneurship near me, or angel groups near me, or startup events near me, and look at what's happening in all the places that I lived, where I saw all these different entrepreneurial ecosystems. I thought to myself, the one thing that is always constant is entrepreneurs, investors, people who are interested in this stuff, they all gravitate together. They want to know each other. They want
Yeah.
to have events. They want to network. And they find that, maybe at the beginning, it's just a couple of them, and then it turns into a bigger and bigger and bigger community. So you would be surprised how many things are happening right in your backyard, just like I was, because the first time I went to an angel investing meeting, I thought to myself, what is going on? How come I didn't know anything about this? Where have I been? Right. So just learning about what's happening in your local area can be a great way to start.
Perfect. Perfect. So I know you have another book coming out. Tell me a little bit about that book and what has inspired it.
Well, to be honest, I thought the book Do Good While Doing Well. I thought, okay, I'm writing this book. I'm demystifying angel investing for everyone. And then I would talk to especially women, and they would say, okay, well, my husband does all the investing, and I don't even really know where my money is. And I think you're asking me to do something that's like way over here. And I'm kind of back here at the beginning. Like, what do I do?
Mhm.
And I thought to myself, oh dear, we need a prequel. So I wrote this book, Unapologetic Wealth, Rewrite Your Money Story from Any Beginning, in order to help women get past that. Like, stop feeling guilty, stop playing small, stop thinking that this isn't for you or that you weren't invited to the table. Nobody's going to come and grab you by the hand and probably invite you to the table, but you can certainly pull up a chair.
Wow. That book is so needed. I can tell you that right now. I'm like, okay, when does it come out? Because I'd like to read that, please.
Yeah, so it comes out in March of 2026, and there will be an accompanying workbook. So yeah, I'm excited because I've had a couple beta readers who I had read the book to make sure that things made sense and all that kind of stuff that you do, and the response was tremendous. Like, people were like, "We need this book right now." I already had people tell me I threw away. This was one of the funniest comments. This woman told me, "I threw away all that lotion that was in my bathroom that I hate, that I bought it and I didn't mean to buy it, but it was expensive and I felt guilty throwing it away." She's like, "I just went through it all the way and now I feel great,"
Isn't that
which I
the
thought was
truth?
hilarious.
Isn't that the truth? It's like, feeling empowered around your money. And even if it's to that degree where it's like, oh, yeah, I have these clothes with no tags on or with tags on that I've never worn, right? Let
Right.
me give them
Yep.
away right
Mm.
now, right? Like, or, starting to make different choices. Maybe I'm shopping my closet before I actually go out and buy something,
Yes.
But like small things that can leave you feeling very empowered, and that those tiny steps forward is how we get there to the point where women are having huge financial impacts. I mean, we already have,
Mhm.
like we talked about before, a collective financial power that is significant, and we just need to
Yes.
recognize it, right? And if that's what it takes, small tiny baby steps, then sign me up because I'm I'm there.
Exactly. Baby steps. That's what the whole
Yeah.
book's about. Baby
Yeah,
steps.
I mean, we're gonna have to have another conversation when that book comes out because, like I said to you, this topic of women and money is like I hear it almost every single solitary day. Like women who are, ambitious, smart, insanely qualified,
Yep.
and have incredible ideas, have ideas that are going to change the world, that are going to have an incredible impact. And the one thing that stands in their way every time is, how do I do this without money?
Yep.
You know?
It's true.
Yeah. Oh, this was such a good conversation. And like I said, this is just part one, because we're coming back for part two in the spring for sure.
I love it.
But where can people listen to the podcast, and maybe even grab your first book before the other one comes out?
Yeah, you can find everything on my website. It's just Marcia, Marcia, Dawood, DAWOOD.com. And there's all kinds of things there. You can get the book. There's not only do I have links to the podcast, but I found that because I'm now like close to over 150 episodes, that I would be talking to people and I would say, hey, you should listen to like whatever conversation we were having. You should listen to something about using philanthropic capital or crowdfunding or something. And then but they'd be like, what episode's that? There's like too many. So I started like playlists on my website. So if you want to learn about specific things, that you can go right to the playlist and you could see the couple of things based on that. So like I had a series on aging, and which is really an interesting topic right now, all the things that are coming out around age tech and how we can age better, how we can not just physically age better, but what are the things that are being invented that can help us, so like that's a topic. So there's a lot of different things that people can look at, and I try to categorize it and make it super easy and simple for people. And then of course there's links there to my TEDx talk. I also did do a rap battle, angel investor versus venture capitalist. I just want to claim that I did write it before AI. So you can take a look at the difference. In 2 minutes, you can learn what is the difference between an angel investor and a venture capitalist.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, I'm searching that up now. At the end of the podcast, I ask every guest 3 questions, kind of fill in the blanks. So the first question is, midlife is the perfect time to fill in the blank.
Start investing your money for good.
Yes. If you could put a sticky note on the mirror of every midlife woman, what would it say?
Start investing now. I think I have a theme going here.
I think so. And what is one book, resource, or idea that you come back to again and again and again in your own life?
Yeah. So a friend of mine wrote a book called Buoyant. Her name is Susie DeVille. And it is a great lesson in, again, how to just live your best and most full life.
Excellent. We'll make sure we put that in the show notes as well, too. Awesome. Well, Marcia, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
I love this conversation. We could cover a lot more, but I'm going to save it for the next conversation when your new book comes out in March. To everybody listening, I hope you felt more empowered around money. I hope you realize that you don't need to be a billionaire or, sitting on piles of cash somewhere to be able to start making a difference. And that, women supporting women is how we really make the change.
100%. Yes. Thanks for having me. Thank
you so much. Welcome to the episode wrap up. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Marcia. I know I did. I am taking away a lot from that episode, and specifically, before talking to Marcia, I did not realize that angel investing was even an option, could be an option for me. I thought angel investors were all billionaires sitting on piles of cash looking for places to put it. But the idea that we can invest as little as $50 to $100, or that we can invest no cash at all and just share time or expertise to support another business just was hugely eye-opening for me. I am a person who is always interested in supporting women-owned businesses or businesses that have meaning for me. I do it now with my spending dollars. So if I have a choice, I will always spend with an independent women-owned business. But the fact that I can actually support on a larger scale with a woman-owned business, that just that feels really, really good to me, and it's something that I am definitely going to. I'm definitely going to research. So, we talk a lot about all of the barriers to women and us really owning our power around money. You heard in the episode, we are actually a powerhouse cohort together, but we need to believe that we are, and we need to feel more empowered around our money. So I hope you took away from this episode some inspiration to Start researching ways that you can become more empowered around your money, one tiny step at a time, or start researching ways that you can help support other women-owned businesses. Because as we talked about on the episode, us working together, us taking small steps together is how we change the legacy for what it means for women and money, and specifically women investing instead of just saving or, giving to charity, which comes easy to us, but investing in things that matter to us and creating impact and legacy that way. So I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you did like it, it would be the greatest honor if you could share this episode with a friend, colleague, sister, or somebody that you think would enjoy it. Or you can go and leave us a rating or review. Until next time.